Okay. You're going to find this one is on the top of page 154. And again, I think you're going to find out that they give you so little space there, you might be able to work it out in the column where it says My Notes, but you may find out that you're better off taking notes on a separate sheet of paper and making reference to where this problem is. If you make a note about where the problem is, you don't have to copy down all the words, just so that you know that this is the Your Turn number 1 from that page. So you've got something to go back and look at. Today we're going to be talking about actually using percents in real-world type situations. It says Sharon wants to buy a shirt that costs $20 and the sales tax is 5%. How much is the sales tax and what's the total cost of her shirt? Is that a percent increase or a percent decrease? This is definitely going to be an increase in price. It's something that they're adding on to it. And whether we like it or not, everybody in the real world is paying a tax on almost anything you touch. It's built into the price of gasoline. You don't recognize it as a tax, but the reason that there's a huge difference in price between gas here and maybe gas in Alabama, which I talked to my mom this morning, is $1.52. We're paying $1.75. And the difference is the amount of tax that's built into it, not the cost of the gasoline. The state has got more tax in Florida on the gas than the state of Alabama does.
Well, my dad just got a truck and we finally filled it up for the first time, and it cost like $60 just for like.
And imagine what it would have cost about a year and a half ago when gas prices were $3.40 or $4.20. I think I paid as much as $4.75 at one point when the prices were getting hyped up, and we're at $1.75 now. I mean, it would have cost a couple $100 to fill the tank up. So, we're going to talk about how to do these. The nice thing about this section is it really is the same thing that we've been doing. It's just an application. How do I find 5% of the $20? First off, they want to know how much tax there is. So, what am I going to do with this 20? I'm going to multiply it by what? 5%, or as a decimal, 0.05. So go ahead and take 20 times 0.05. And remember, this is in dollars and cents, so we want to think of it that way. This is $1. That's how much tax is on a $20 item at 5% tax. So this is the answer to the first question. The second question says what? Total cost. How would I find the total cost? I'd add $1 to the $20 that I started out with. So there was two answers for this question. How much was the tax, and how much did I have to pay going out the door? Everybody see that this is basically the same as what we've been doing? Yes? If they asked me how much I was paying going out the door, and they didn't care how much tax this was, I could have added 100 to the 5, which would have been 105%, and I could have multiplied 20 times 1.05, and it would have given me this amount. So depending on which way they asked the question would depend on how I was going to work out the problem. But because this one asked for specifically how much tax, I wanted to see that. Everybody good? Can I go to the next problem? We still copying? Okay. Okay. On the bottom of the same page, you're going to see number 3. And it's talking here about simple interest. And I'm not sure why the book doesn't give you a formula for simple interest. There is one. It used to be written on the reference sheet. I'd actually have to look at one now to see if it's there. But if you'd write that down right next to where it says finding simple interest on your sheet, I equals PRT. I stands for interest. P stands for the principal, and we'll talk about what that means. R stands for the rate, that's going to be your percentage. And T stands for the time, and the time is always represented, in this case, in years. I equals PRT. Principal is the amount that you initially put in, or the initial amount that you borrow. It's that initial value. That's your principal. The rate is the percentage. T is the time. So, if we take a look at the your turn number 3. Arain borrows $400. What does the $400 represent in terms of our equation? I equals PRT. Is it I, is it P, is it R, or is it T? It is P. This $400 is the principal amount, the amount that was initially borrowed. What does the 4-year loan tell us? T is equal to 4, the time. And she's charged 5% simple interest per year. And what do we write that 5% as? 0.05. And now we're going to plug them into that formula. Notice it's asking me 2 questions. How much interest is she charged for 4 years? That's the first question. To find that, I'm going to plug it into the formula. I equals, what do I replace P with? 400 times the rate, 0.05, times the time, 4 years. Is it 80? This is the answer to the first part of the question. She's going to have to pay back $80 worth of interest. The second part of the question says, what's the total amount she has to pay back? I've definitely got to pay back what I borrowed. I've got to pay all of the 400. But I've also got to add to it the interest, so I'm going to pay back a total of $480. 400, the principal, the initial amount that I borrowed, plus what? 80, the interest that I accumulated over that 4-year period of time. By the way, real world things. Most people, when they go out to buy a car, finance it. In other words, they borrow money to purchase it. They don't have enough money of their own. They borrow money to make that purchase. It's a large purchase in your lifetime. Most people, when they buy a house, they don't pay cash for a house. They borrow money. They finance it. If that's the case, then what you don't need to be interested in is what the cost of the car is. You need to know what the end cost of the car is. What was the cost of this? Was it $400 or was it $480? $480. Too many people in our country are what they call upside down on their loans, on their automobiles. They've borrowed too much money for the cost. And what you pay up front, in fairness, on a car is the interest. So if you've paid on it for a year, you still owe what you borrowed. And the only thing that you've paid for is what? The interest. In the meantime, what happened to the value of your car? It's gone down. You're no longer, do you have the same value as what you owe? You owe more than what the car is worth, and so you're considered to be upside down. Same thing happens when you're buying a house if you're not careful. So real world applications exist here. Things that everybody in here really want to make sure that you learn and pay attention to. And credit cards are probably the worst about getting upside down on. Most credit card companies, by the time you're 17 or 18, you'll get offers. Most of those offers that you get say, sign up, you're pre-approved. What they don't tell you is the fact that there's a monthly service fee, whether you use it or not. They don't tell you that they're charging you 18% interest. That's in really fine print. Look close. They don't tell you that your limit's $1,000, and if you go over that $1,000, they're charging you $20 a month for every month that you're over, and on top of it, you're still paying the interest. Be careful about borrowing money, because it's quick to get upside down. Not saying that borrowing isn't a good thing. I'm just saying use caution when you're looking at getting that first loan, because otherwise you'll be upside down.
My dad, when he bought the truck, they wouldn't approve him because he was borrowing too much. So he was only allowed to borrow at least around $42,000. So he had to like make a deal to get the truck down at least to.
And that's based off of different things. That's a day for a different discussion.
That's because his credit score is really good for my mom's.
Okay. Let's go ahead and turn to the bottom of page 155 and look at the problem that's here. Samuel orders 4 DVDs from an online music store. Each DVD costs $9.99. By the way, there's more than one thing happening. How many DVDs is he buying? 4. They're not $9.99 for all 4. They're $9.99 each. So I've got to deal with that here in a minute. He has a 20% discount code. So there's a percentage of my total that's going to be taken off. It's a decrease. So that's the second part of the problem. He's also got to pay what? He's got to pay tax. That's an increase. That's a third part of the problem. So you've got to be sure that you're working out these problems in steps. Now, in this one, they didn't ask me how much was the tax. They didn't ask me how much did they discount it. They just asked one thing. How much am I going to pay when I walk out the door? Okay? So I only need one answer for this. But in order to get to it, First off, I got to find out how much it costs for 4 DVDs.
4 times 30.
I'm going to take $9.99 times 4, and it'd be $39.96.
39.
Everybody with me that far? If I have a 20% off coupon, how much do I actually have to pay percentage-wise? I have to pay 80%. So, if I take my $39.96 times 0.80, it'll tell me how much those DVDs are after they've been discounted. It'd be $31.97 because that 8 is going to make the 7 round up to the 6 round up to a 7. It came up to this 31.968, but this is going to make this round up to a 7. Everybody see that? Now, did it cost me $31.97 to walk out the door?
No, tax.
I still have to pay the tax. Tax is an increase or a decrease? Increase. Since it's an increase, I could take the 100 plus 6.75, which is 106.75%. So I can take 31.97. If I move the decimal 2 places, 1.0675. Got to keep track of all of the numbers that they gave us. Okay. It says 3412.975. But I want to keep it to the nearest cent. What's going to happen to this number? So this is going to become $34.13.
That's how much it costs to walk out door?
That's how much it cost me to walk out the door with the 4 DVDs. After they discounted it, and they've added in the 6 3/4% tax. Questions? You've got to make sure that when you see something that has multiple pieces in it, that you're doing each piece separately. Am I good? Okay. This one you're going to see actually in the guided practice. This is number 1. And I didn't want anybody to get confused by the easy ones. And since they didn't work one of these out in the guided practice pieces, I wanted you to see how to do this. First off, 5% as a decimal is what? 0.05. Mathematically, this word is important. What does of mean? Multiplication. So don't make this harder than what it is. All I'm doing is what? Multiplying 0.05 times 30. again, since this was money, I need to keep 2 decimal places. Even though it shows up as 1.5 on a calculator, I've got to keep it as $1.50.
Do we have to show what
For this particular piece, there's not really a lot of work to show. The only thing that you really could show is what? That you're changing this to this, and you could, right where it says of, put what? A multiplication symbol. Okay? There's not a lot of work to show for these. Not for these. But on the others, what are you going to have to do? You're going to have to show the work, because there are going to be others that require more work than that. Everybody okay? We all good? That's your assignment.